In 1986, the Maktab al-Khidamat, the Afghan Services Bureau, the precursor organization to al-Qaeda, opens its first branch in the United States at the Islamic Center of Tucson in Arizona. A number of important figures who have connections to al-Qaeda are connected to the Tucson branch in the 1980s and into the early 1990s. And they included Mohammed al-Bayzat, one of the founders of al-Qaeda 2 years later, while Hamza Julaluddin, another founder of al-Qaeda and a Saudi millionaire, and he was once the president of the Islamic Center starting in 83. Wadi al-Hajj, bin Laden's future personal secretary, who will later be convicted for his role in the 1998 U.S. embassy bombings. And Mubarak al-Duri, al-Qaeda's chief agent, attempting to purchase weapons of mass destruction in the 1990s. By the mid-1980s, Osama bin Laden and his mentor Abdullah Azzam jointly founded a charity front based in Pakistan, the Maktab al-Khidamat, which means service office, and is also known as the al-Kifah, which means struggle. The al-Kifah Refugee Center would actually have branches located throughout the United States. Branches start to open up in the U.S. by 1986. The first one apparently opens in Tucson, Arizona. But around 1986, Khalid Abu el-Dahab, the right-hand man of double agent Ali Muhammad, informally founds a branch in Brooklyn, New York, and it soon becomes the most important branch because on December 29, 1987, three men, Mustafa Shalabi, Fawaz Darama, and Ali Shinawi, formally filed papers incorporating al-Kifah, which is called the al-Kifah Refugee Center at first. It is located inside the Farouq Mosque, which is led by Darama, but eventually it will get its own office space next to the mosque. Shalabi, a naturalized citizen from Egypt, runs the office with two assistants, Mahmoud Abulima, who will later be convicted for his role in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, and El Said Nosser, who would later assassinate a Jewish leader in New York by the name of Rabbi Meir Kahane, founder of the Jewish Defense League, a militant organization of its own. Jamal al-Fadl, a founding member of al-Qaeda and future FBI informant, also works at the al-Kifah Refugee Center in its early days. The Brooklyn office recruits Arab immigrants and Arab Americans to go fight in Afghanistan, even after the Soviets' withdrawal in early 1989. As many as 200 are sent there from the office. Before they go, the office arranges training in the use of rifles, assault weapons, and handguns, and then helps them with their visas, plane tickets, and contacts. They are generally sent to the MAC al-Kifah office in Peshawar, Pakistan, and then connected to either the radical Afghan faction led by Abdul Rasul Sayyaf, or the equally radical one led by Gulbuddin Hekmatyar of the Hizb-e-Islami. The CIA has some murky connections to al-Kifah and has yet to be fully explained. A Newsweek article will later say that the Brooklyn office doubled as a recruiting post for the CIA seeking to steer fresh troops to the mujahedeen fighting in Afghanistan. At the same time, the Brooklyn office is where veterans of the Afghan war arrived in the United States, many with passports arranged by the CIA. Robert Friedman, writing for the New York Magazine, will comment that the Brooklyn office was a refuge for ex and future mujahedeen. Quote, but the highlight for the center's regulars were the inspirational jihad lectures series featuring CIA-sponsored speakers. One week on Atlantic Avenue might be a CIA-trained Afghan rebel traveling on a CIA-issued visa. The next, it might be a clean-cut Arabic speaker who is in the Green Berets, who would lecture about the importance of being part of the Mujahideen or Warriors of the Lord, end quote. The more popular lectures were held upstairs in the roomier al-Farouq Mosque. Such was the case in 1990 when Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman, traveling on a CIA-supported visa, came to town. His visa was approved in Cairo, Egypt, at the U.S. Embassy, which had CIA agents employed as visa employees. One frequent instructor is double agent Ali Muhammad, who actually is a double agent for the CIA, the FBI, and later became a triple agent for Osama bin Laden. Muhammad, who is a U.S. Special Forces at the time, between 1987 and 1989, bin Laden's mentor Azzam frequently visits and lectures in the area. And in 1988, he tells a rapt crowd of several hundred in Jersey City, blood and martyrdom are the only way to create a Muslim society. However, humanity won't allow us to achieve this objective because all humanity is the enemy of every Muslim. Ayman al-Zawahiri, future al-Qaeda second-in-command, makes a recruiting trip to the office in 1989. The Brooklyn office also raises a considerable amount of money for MAC back in Pakistan. The British Parliament Independent will later call the office a place of pivotal importance to Operation Cyclone, the American effort to support the mujahedeen through the CIA. The Kifah Refugee Center was raising funds and crucially providing recruits for the struggle with active American assistance. Abdullah Rahman, better known as the Blind Sheikh, is closely linked to bin Laden. In 1990, he moves to New York on another CIA-supported visa, even though he's on a terrorist watch list, and soon dominates the Kifah Refugee Center. Shalabi has a falling out with him over how to spend the money they raise, and he is later killed in mysterious circumstances in early 1991, completing Abdul Rahman's takeover. Now both the Brooklyn and Pakistan ends of the Kifah MAC network are firmly controlled by bin Laden and his close associates because Abdullah Azzam was actually killed by a roadside bomb in 1990. 1998, the U.S. government will later say that the al-Qaeda's connections to the United States evolved from the Kifah Refugee Center. Yet there is no sign that the CIA stops its relationship with the Brooklyn office because it closes down shortly after the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Even though Ali Muhammad was still an instructor at Fort Bragg, he frequently spends his weekends traveling to the Kifah Refugee Center in Brooklyn. The center is the Brooklyn branch, of course, of the Maktab al-Khidamat, and Muhammad teaches the Islamic activist survival techniques, map rating, and how to recognize tanks and other Soviet weapons. He frequently stays at the home of El Said Nosser, and in July 1989, the FBI monitors him, teaching Nosser and some of the future members of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing plot how to shoot weapons. Towards the end of this period, he informs his superiors that he has renewed his relationship with Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman. Around 1993, apparently the CIA ties to the Kifah Refugee to prevent other U.S. agencies from investigating it, even after the bombing, when all of the bombers are found to have been tied to the center. While Kifah closes its doors shortly after the World Trade Center bombing, it immediately reopens in Boston under a different name and continues to publish the same newsletter and posts from the same website. Robert Friedman of the New York Magazine will comment, when the fanatical fervor the CIA whipped up leads to unintended consequences, the assassination of a Jewish militant leader in Manhattan, the bombing of the World Trade Center, a terror conspiracy to blow up the Holland and Lincoln tunnels and other Manhattan landmarks, the CIA tried to discourage local law enforcement agencies and the FBI from looking into the matter too deeply. After Nosser assassinates Kani, the FBI tells District Attorney Robert Morgenthau that Nosser was a lone gunman, not part of a broader conspiracy. However, the FBI had truckloads of evidence connecting to an Kifah, strongly suggesting otherwise, that it does not closely investigate. The FBI also blocked him from tying Sheikh Abdul Rahman to the World Trade Center bombing. Morgenthau would later speculate the CIA may have encouraged the FBI not to pursue any other leads. The FBI lied to me, he would say. They're supposed to untangle terrorist connections, but they can't be trusted to do the job, says Morgenthau. Counterterrorism expert Stephen Emerson, also Israeli Zionist, will call Kifah al-Qaeda's operational headquarters in the United States. Emerson is a known Islamophobe. In 1994, a secret internal CIA report will conclude that the agency is partially culpable for the World Trade Center bombing because of its support for radicals connected to al-Kifah. One CIA source will later say, quote, by giving these people the funding that we did, a situation was created in which it could safely be argued that we helped assist in the bombing of the World Trade Center, end quote. But even after 1994, there is little evidence that the links from al-Kifah were carefully explored by any U.S. government agency. For instance, the government will not freeze al-Kifah's funds until shortly after 9/11, long after it ceased to exist. The question remains, why did the CIA not tell the FBI to investigate their probe into CIA funding of former mujahedeen soldiers who were located at the al-Kifah Refugee Center? Because later on, it was the same CIA who refused to share information with the FBI about two al-Qaeda operatives inside the United States in which Saudi and Israeli agents were monitoring at the same time, all without the knowledge of the FBI or the State Department. The question is, who will hold the CIA responsible for aiding and abetting operatives who were involved with the 1993 World Trade Center bombing and the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks?